I teach ethics. I've been teaching ethics for about 25 years. And one of the real difficulties we have in teaching ethics in universities to students and both going out and talking about is so much of our professional training leaves us unprepared for talking about the things that happen in people's daily lives. And so I've been working for a number of years at trying to figure out how do we make ethics simple, connected with our ordinary language so that it affects what we're really going through in our organizations and our communities, but also doesn't simplify it to the extent that it doesn't do any good. So it's clever, but it's not really useful. And one of the things I've had to think about is the ways in which my own upbringing in a small town in northern Minnesota helped me understand what is going on and continue to connect things from my past and things that inform like everybody's upbringing, everybody's growing up with their ethical sense. One of the things I'm convinced is that from the age of 3, we're already engaged in ethical reasoning. And so one of the things that shaped me is growing up in a small town. And what's happening with many of our small towns is that they're stagnating or dying, many of them. Some of them are growing and expanding, but many of them aren't. And I think that the reason is poor leadership in many cases. My own town, Frazee, Minnesota, is home of the world's largest turkey. You probably heard of it. It's up by Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, about 50 miles from Fargo. But when I was growing up, we didn't have a big turkey, so we didn't really have an identity. If we'd go out for a picnic, we'd go to Vergas, which is home of the world's largest loon. 8 miles the road on a little lake, big concrete loon. We'd pile in the station wagon, and then if my parents were really adventurous, if we had extra time, we'd go all the way to Pelican Rapids. They had the world's largest pelican right by the river, a big concrete thing. And then we'd hear of other kids that went on adventures to faraway places like Walker that had the world's largest muskie, and up to Rosse, the world's largest booming prairie chicken. And then about 1980, Fergus Falls had a high school project, and the kids built a big concrete otter because they're on the Otter Tail River, right? So 1984, I'm away in college, and I find out from my dad that Frazee has gotten together, all the city council, all the wisdom of the elders have gotten together. They decided we're going to build the world's largest turkey because Frazee has all these turkey farms, and we've got the annual Turkey Day Parade and the Miss Turkey pageant and all these things. And so if we do that, then we're going to answer this problem of this small decline that our towns are having. So they get together and they do a national search for somebody who can build these big monoliths. And they find a guy who claims he's built several of them, and he comes in and they pay him half of his fee in advance. He starts working on it. He takes chicken wire. He builds a big globe on the park outside of town, a big circle of chicken wire, and then he covers it in paper mache, and then he coats it with fiberglass. Okay. Now, it seems a little shoddy when it's being built, but everybody trusts it. Here's the turkey expert. So he's working away, and he'll work for a couple weeks, and then it'll disappear. And then he works again, and then he disappears. And it's getting close to the Turkey Day Parade, and everybody's getting worried. What's going to happen? So they talk to him and say, we need you to finish. We've only got 3 weeks to the Turkey Day Parade, and it's only half done. He says, well, I'm running out of funds here, and I need to do some of these other jobs to get some funds. So they pay him the rest of his money in advance. He comes up in a week, he's got the whole thing done. And it doesn't look exactly like what they were expecting, but it's good enough, and they're excited. And on August 4th, 1984, the whole town is on a hillside waving "Good Morning to America" on ABC television. And they're really pleased, and they're in time for the Turkey Day Parade. 10 months later, it's spring, it's gone through fall and winter and spring. Somebody noticed chips are starting to fall off this turkey. Big pieces are coming off. And they send a couple house painters over there. It's starting to fall apart. They look at it. They realize this guy had kind of scammed them. He hadn't put a final coat of seal coat over the turkey, and his fiberglass starting to deteriorate and it's falling apart. And so they send some guys. They patch it up, right? They paint the whole thing white because they don't have the money to paint it all like a wild turkey. So they paint it white. It looks like a big snowball on the top of the hill. And that's okay because we have turkey farms. It looks like the kind of turkey farm. So it's pretty good. 7-8 years go by, and everybody's pleased with it. It's doubled the tourist population in the town. Cafe's been able to reopen. They have 2 tables full instead of 1. And they're pretty happy, except somebody noticed the turkey's starting to lean over. And it's leaning over a little bit, and we got to inspect what's going wrong with our turkey. And they get Reinhart, who runs a local auto body shop, and he says, I think what's going on is all these cracks, the water has leaked down and rusted the support. It's going to fall over if we don't do something. So he cuts a hole in the back of the turkey, and he crawls in. By the way, he never lived this down. He'd go down to the local cafe for a cup of coffee in the morning and say, hey, Ray, how's the turkey proctology business going? And so he crawls in there, and he finds out that's true. The supports are rusted. So he gets his acetylene torch. He's gonna weld some supports onto this, and then pull that turkey back upright and weld some supports. He gets his torch in there, and he sets the turkey on fire. And right now, if you Google crazy turkey fire, you'll see this on the internet. 100-foot flames. All the fire departments from all the towns around are coming in to put out this giant turkey fire. But the good news is they got a national news for the 2nd time in the history of the town. So then they finally made a good decision. They said, okay, now let's do this right. They hired a company. It's a Fast Corporation based in Sparta, Wisconsin. They built a big fiberglass turkey. They put it on a flatbed and hauled it up there. And if you go there today, you can still have your picture taken by the turkey. You might have to stand in line for a while, but you can get your picture taken by the world's largest turkey. My dad now pays some of the highest property taxes in the state of Minnesota because he's paying for 2 turkeys. And it's not the only thing that happens in small towns and many organizations where the best of intentions aren't carried out very well. And it has real effects on people. Max Dupree has written a lot on the idea of servant leadership. He says, leadership is serious meddling in other people's lives. And our decisions, and many times decisions with real good intentions, have real effects and profound effects on people. They're lasting. And lots of times we get funny stories out of it. But what you want is an organization that thrives and flourishes. So one of the things I've tried to do is look at the ways in which we talk about the things that really matter. And this is what ethics is. This is being able to talk about the things that really matter. And what I've been able to discover is that there are 4 ways we talk about ethics. Every decision we make comes in one of 4 kinds of reasoning. We talk about what's truth, what's really going on, what the consequences are, whether it's fair, and what the character is of the people that are acting. And once we know this and we can have these discussions with one another, what happens is our communication, both in our families and in our organizations, gets much better. Okay? And even if we have some disagreements, if we have an understanding of how people are talking, not just what they're trying to say, what they're trying to get, but how they're talking to one another, even if we have some disagreements, we're able to work together and reach common understanding. So that's what I've been trying to do, and that's what I try to work with organizations to do, whether they just need a speech or they need a series of workshops or whatever, is try to figure out what's going on in your organization, how can you make it better, how can you clarify communication, so that the sorts of things that can create problems and create a ripple effect from bad decisions down the road can be addressed right away at the beginning and build a better culture. So thank you very much.